My husband beat our son. Bloody after finding a DNA test that proved he was his brother's child, so I took him to the ER and stayed silent. That was 3 months ago. He sends handwritten letters from Portland every Sunday, but Tyler hasn't opened a single one. I, 34, got married to my husband, 40, a decade back. He came with twin sons from an earlier relationship who are 19 and nearly 20 now. I adore these kids with all my heart. Even though I didn't give birth to them, they're my boys and nobody can say different. I legally adopted them a few years ago as well, so they are mine. I came home from a shopping spree and dropped off my older son at the airport. When I walked in, I heard my husband yelling and cursing. I got closer where he was in his office, hitting our younger son while he was on the ground. I begged him to stop and eventually he did. I rushed to comfort our son and he aggressively grabbed my arm and demanded I don't lay a hand on him. I stressed that he was hurt and he was our son. My husband retaliated. He's not our son. He's a pathetic man that needs get the heck out of my house by the morning. Kicked him and walked away, dragging me with him and not minding my pace. We got to our room and he locked the door and went to the bathroom to shower. I brought him new clothes and went back to sit on the bed. After some time, the water turned off and then I went to see if he was calm. I found him sitting on the floor crying. He cried all night while holding me and only just fell asleep less than an hour ago. My husband is the personification of a gentle giant. He's 7 feet 2, over 400 pounds, buff and used to box. But this man would never hurt anything. I mean, if I asked him to take care of a bug for me, he will slowly pick it up while talking to it and then take it outside. He has never had a loud voice or shown any aggression, so have never seen him that way before. Our son is 6 feet 6 inches and almost 300 pounds and does football himself. Meanwhile, I'm 5 feet 8 inches and 127 pounds. After seeing the damage he did to our son, I'm very frightened to think of what he could do to me. I sat there on our bed, my hands trembling as I watched the bathroom door. The silence felt heavy after hours of James sobbing against my shoulder. My arm throbbed where he'd grabbed me earlier, and I pulled up my sleeve to see the bruises already forming. 5 distinct finger marks wrapped around my forearm like a purple bracelet. I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. No sound from Tyler's room down the hall either. My stomach churned thinking about him alone, hurt, probably confused about why his father had turned on him so suddenly. I wanted to go check on him, but James had locked our bedroom door and pocketed the key. The bathroom door creaked open. James stood there, his massive frame filling the doorway. His eyes were swollen and red, his face blotchy from crying. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me for a moment, then his shoulders sagged. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice hoarse. He shuffled toward the bed, each step heavy. The floorboards groaned under his weight. When he sat down, the mattress dipped so much I had to grab the headboard to keep from sliding into him. He put his head in his hands, his fingers disappearing into his dark hair. "I need to tell you something," he said. I waited, not trusting my voice. In 10 years of marriage, I'd never seen him like this. Not when his mother died, not when he lost his job at the veterinary clinic during the virus. Never. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. His hands shook as he smoothed it out on his lap. I leaned over to look, but he covered it with his palm. "Last week, I was looking for Tyler's car keys," he started. "He'd left them somewhere and asked me to move his car for street cleaning. I checked his room." His voice cracked. He cleared his throat and continued. "I found this under his mattress." He lifted his hand, revealing what looked like test results. "It's a DNA test." My heart skipped. A DNA test? Why would Tyler? His friends got it for him as a birthday gag last month. You know, those ancestry things. Find out if you're really Irish or whatever. James laughed bitterly. Some joke. I squinted at the paper, trying to make sense of the numbers and percentages. Then I saw it. The section marked biological father match, negative. "Oh my God," I breathed. "Keep reading," James said. Below that was another section. Biological match found. Subject shares 25% DNA with reference sample. Likely relationship. Uncle-nephew. I looked up at James, confused. "I don't understand. Your brother died when the boys were toddlers. How could they have his DNA on file?" James crushed the paper in his fist. "Because my brother was arrested for DUI 3 times before he died. His DNA was in the system." His voice dropped to almost nothing. "Tyler is my brother's son." The room spun. I grabbed James's arm to steady myself, then jerked back, remembering how he'd grabbed mine earlier. "Your ex-wife and your brother?" I couldn't wrap my head around it. James nodded. All those years I raised him, loved him, went to every game, every school event. I taught him to ride a bike, to throw a football, to shave. His voice broke completely. And the whole time, I was raising the proof of their betrayal. I thought about Tyler, probably in his room right now, confused and hurting. Does Tyler know what the results mean? He must. He's been different since his birthday. Quiet, avoiding me. James stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "He's known for a month and didn't tell me. Just let me keep playing the fool." "James, he's probably terrified. He's just a kid who found out something that changes everything he thought he knew about himself." James whirled around and I flinched. He saw it and stopped, his face crumbling. "You're afraid of me," he said. I didn't deny it. How could I? I'd seen what he did to Tyler, who was twice my size. "I became him," James whispered. "I became my father." I knew about James's dad, the beatings, the bruises James would hide at school, the way James had promised himself he'd never be that kind of man. It was why he was so gentle, why he talked to bugs and worked with animals. He was always fighting against that violence in his blood. "One incident doesn't make you your father," I said carefully. "Doesn't it?" He gestured toward the door. "I hit my son." He stopped. "I hit Tyler until he couldn't stand. I kicked him while he was down. I grabbed you hard enough to bruise. How is that different?" I didn't have an answer. The James I married would have been horrified by what happened tonight, but that James also hadn't known his whole life was built on a lie. A knock on the door made us both jump. "Mom?" Tyler's voice was muffled, slurred. His jaw must be swollen. I looked at James. He turned away, shoulders rigid. "Just a minute, honey," I called. James dug the key from his pocket and handed it to me without looking. His hand was shaking again. I unlocked the door to find Tyler leaning against the frame. His face was a mess. His left eye was swollen shut, his jaw purple and distorted. Dried blood crusted around his nose. He held his ribs with one arm. "I'm leaving," he said. "Can you drive me to Mason's apartment?" "Tyler, no. You need a hospital." "I'm fine." He wouldn't look at me directly. "I already called Mason. He's expecting me." Behind me, James made a sound like a wounded animal. Tyler flinched but didn't acknowledge him. "Please, Mom. I just need to go." I wanted to argue, to insist he stay so we could work this out, but looking at his battered face, I knew he was right. He couldn't stay here tonight, maybe not for a while. "Let me get my keys," I said. Tyler nodded and limped back toward his room. I turned to James, who had collapsed on the bed again. "I'll be back," I said. He didn't respond. I helped Tyler gather his things. He moved slowly, wincing with each breath. I tried to help him pack, but he waved me off. He threw clothes into a duffel bag without folding them, grabbed his laptop and chargers. His football gear stayed in the closet. You know about the test? I said. It wasn't a question. Tyler paused, a t-shirt bunched in his hands. Yeah, why didn't you tell us? He finally looked at me, and the pain in his one good eye had nothing to do with the beating. How do you tell the man who raised you that he's not your father? How do you tell him his brother? He couldn't finish. Oh, honey. I reached for him, but he stepped back. Don't, please. I just need to go. The drive to Mason's apartment near the university was silent except for Tyler's labored breathing. I kept glancing at him, worried about internal injuries, but he stared straight ahead. When we pulled up to the building, he grabbed his bag and opened the door. Tyler, wait. I caught his sleeve. This doesn't change anything. You're still my son. You're still his son? Tyler laughed bitterly. I don't think he sees it that way. He's in shock. He just needs time, Mom. Tyler's voice was firm despite the swelling. He told me I had to be out by morning. I'm just doing what he asked. He climbed out of the car, moving like an old man. I watched him limp to the building entrance where Mason was already waiting. Mason's face went pale when he saw his brother. He wrapped an arm around Tyler's shoulders and guided him inside, shooting me a look I couldn't decipher. I sat in the car for a long time, engine running, trying to process everything. My family had imploded in the span of a few hours. This morning I'd been shopping for groceries, planning Sunday dinner. Now Tyler was gone, James was broken, and I didn't know how to fix any of it. When I got home, the house felt empty, even though James was still there. I found him exactly where I'd left him, sitting on the bed, staring at nothing. He's at Mason's, I said. James nodded slightly. Is he? How bad is it? Bad. He needs a doctor. I did that. His voice was hollow. I did that to my boy. James, don't. He stood up, swaying slightly. I need to call my sister. See if I can stay with her for a while. You don't have to leave. This is your home. I can't be here right now. I can't be near anyone right now. He looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. I don't trust myself. I wanted to argue, but maybe he was right. Maybe we all needed space to process this. James packed a bag while I sat on the bed, numb. 10 years of marriage, and I felt like I was watching a stranger. When he finished, he stood in the doorway, bag in hand. I'm going to find help, he said. Therapy, anger management, whatever it takes. I can't. I won't become him. What about us? I asked. What about our family? I don't know. He met my eyes for the first time since Tyler left. I honestly don't know if there's a family left to save. He left, and I was alone in our too big house. I walked through the rooms like a ghost. Tyler's blood was still on James's office carpet. The desk chair was overturned. Papers scattered everywhere. I started to clean up, then stopped. Let James see it when he came back. Let him remember what he'd done. I called Mason to check on Tyler. He told me they were at the emergency room getting x-rays, possible broken ribs, definite concussion. The doctor wanted to call the police, but Tyler refused to file a report. He keeps saying it's his fault, Mason said, that he should have told Dad. Told James right away. It's not his fault. None of this is Tyler's fault. Try telling him that. I spent the night in Tyler's room, surrounded by his things. His football trophies lined the shelves. Pictures of the family covered his desk. One from last Christmas caught my eye. All four of us in matching sweaters, James's idea. Tyler and Mason towered over me, but James dwarfed us all. We looked so happy. I picked up the photo, studying James's face. Had he always carried this capacity for violence? Or had the betrayal broken something in him that couldn't be fixed? I thought about all the times he'd been gentle, teaching the boys to be careful with their strength, rescuing spiders from the bathtub, speaking softly to scared animals at the clinic. But I also remembered his father, the stories James had told me about growing up, the fear, the pain, the promise he'd made to never be that man. Tonight, that promise had shattered along with everything else. My phone buzzed. A text from James. I'm at Linda's. I have an appointment with a therapist tomorrow. I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Another text, this one from Tyler. 3 broken ribs. Concussion. They're keeping me overnight for observation. My boys were broken, scattered across the city, and I sat alone in the wreckage of our life. Tomorrow, I'd have to figure out how to move forward, whether that meant fighting to put our family back together or accepting that some things couldn't be fixed. But tonight, I just sat there, holding that Christmas photo, mourning the family we'd been just hours ago. The next morning came too quickly. I hadn't slept, just sat there watching the sun creep through Tyler's curtains. My phone showed 17 missed calls from James's sister Linda. I finally answered on the 18th. Sarah, what the hell happened? Linda's voice was sharp with worry. James showed up at 3 in the morning looking like death. He won't tell me anything except that he hurt Tyler and needs to stay here. I rubbed my eyes, exhaustion making everything feel surreal. It's complicated, Linda. There was a fight. Tyler's in the hospital. The hospital? Sarah, James would never. He did. The words came out harsher than I intended. I saw it happen. I watched him hit Tyler unconscious. Silence stretched between us. I heard Linda's sharp intake of breath. That's not possible, she finally said. My brother doesn't have a violent bone in his body. Remember when those kids were throwing rocks at that stray cat? James stood between them and the cat, took the rocks himself rather than fight back. I know who James was, I said. But last night, he became someone else. After I hung up, I forced myself to shower and change clothes. The bruises on my arm had darkened overnight, 5 purple fingerprints marking where James had grabbed me. I covered them with a long-sleeved shirt and drove to the hospital. Tyler was awake when I arrived, propped up in the hospital bed. The morning light made his injuries look worse. His left eye was completely swollen shut, the skin around it mottled purple and yellow. His jaw was so swollen it distorted the shape of his face. White bandages wrapped around his ribs. Mason sat in the chair beside him, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He looked up when I entered, exhaustion written across his face. The doctor says he can go home today, Mason said, but he needs to rest. No physical activity for at least 6 weeks. No football, Tyler mumbled through his swollen jaw. Spring training starts in 3 weeks. Football is the least of our worries right now, I said, settling into the other chair. Tyler turned his head away. Even that small movement made him wince. He keeps asking if Dad called, Mason said quietly. I didn't know what to tell him. I pulled out my phone. No messages from James since last night. He's staying with Aunt Linda. He has a therapy appointment today. Therapy, Tyler repeated, the word bitter in his mouth. Like that fixes anything. Tyler, I ruined everything. His voice was thick with unshed tears. I should have thrown the test away. Should have never opened it. Should have stopped. I reached for his hand, careful not to jostle him. None of this is your fault. You didn't ask for that test. You didn't create this situation, but I kept it secret. For a whole month I knew, and I didn't say anything. A tear slipped from his good eye. Every time he called me son, every time he talked about being proud of me, I knew I was lying to him. Mason shifted uncomfortably. Ty, you couldn't have known he'd react like that, couldn't I? Tyler's voice cracked. Remember all those stories about our grandpa? How violent he was? Dad always said he fought every day not to be like him. I gave him a reason to stop fighting. The nurse came in to check Tyler's vitals, giving us a reprieve from the heavy conversation. She frowned at his blood pressure reading and made a note on her chart. You need to stay calm, she said gently. Your body's been through significant trauma. After she left, I helped Tyler gather his things. Every movement was careful, calculated to minimize pain. Mason had to help him put on his shirt, Tyler's face going pale with the effort of raising his arms. You're coming home with me, I said. Tyler shook his head. I can't. He said I had to leave. James isn't there. He's at Linda's, remember? The house is empty except for me. I'm staying with Mason, Tyler insisted. It's better this way. I wanted to argue, but the fear in his eye stopped me. He was genuinely afraid to go home, even knowing James wasn't there. What did that say about the damage done to our family? The drive to Mason's apartment was quiet. Tyler dozed in the back seat, his pain medication making him drowsy. Mason kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, worry etched on his face. Mom, Mason said quietly. What really happened? I mean, I know Dad hit him, but why? Tyler won't tell me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. It's not my story to tell. When Tyler's ready, he'll explain. Is it about the DNA test? Mason asked. He's been weird ever since his birthday. Kept saying he needed to tell Dad something but couldn't find the right time. My heart ached for Tyler, carrying that burden alone for a month. You knew about the test? Just that he took one. His friends thought it would be funny, you know. Find out if we're really Swedish like Dad always claims. Mason's voice turned bitter. Some joke. At the apartment, Mason and I carefully helped Tyler inside. The 3 flights of stairs took forever, Tyler having to rest on each landing. By the time we reached Mason's door, sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool morning. Mason's apartment was typical college housing, small, cluttered, with mismatched furniture. He'd cleared off the couch and made it up with sheets and pillows. Tyler collapsed onto it with a groan. His prescriptions, I said, pulling the bottles from the hospital bag. Antibiotics, pain medication, and anti-inflammatories. He needs to take them with food. Mason nodded, already moving to the kitchen. I've got soup and crackers, soft stuff for his jaw. I watched Tyler settle painfully onto the couch, adjusting pillows behind his back. Even bruised and swollen, he looked so much like James. Same strong jaw, same broad shoulders. But now I wondered, was that resemblance real, or had I just seen what I expected to see? I should go, I said, though leaving felt wrong. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all. Tyler caught my hand as I passed. Mom, can you not tell Dad where I am, if he asks? Oh, honey, he's not going to hurt you again. He's getting help, please. Tyler's grip tightened. Just for now. I need time to think. I promised, though it felt like another fracture in our already broken family. On the drive home, I called in sick to work. My boss was understanding. I'd never missed a day in 3 years. The house felt different in daylight. James's presence lingered everywhere. His coffee mug still sat by the sink, his reading glasses on the side table, his slippers by the door. Normal, mundane things that felt like artifacts from another life. I forced myself to go into his office. The blood on the carpet had dried to rust-brown stains. The overturned chair lay where it had fallen. Papers scattered across the floor. Bills, work documents, nothing important. I found the crumpled DNA test in the wastebasket, smoothed it out on the desk. The science was clear, clinical. Percentages and markers that reduced a family to data points. Tyler shared 25% DNA with James's brother, the most likely relationship, uncle and nephew. I stared at the results until the numbers blurred. My phone rang. Linda. James had his therapy appointment, she said without preamble. The therapist wants to see him 3 times a week. She's concerned about the severity of the incident. She should be concerned. You didn't see what he did to Tyler? I saw James after, Linda countered. He's destroyed Sarah. He hasn't stopped crying. Keeps saying he became Dad. Their father had been a monster. James had shown me the scars once. Old white lines across his back from a belt. He'd told me about hiding in closets, about protecting Linda from the worst of it, about the day he'd finally gotten big enough to stand between his father and his mother, and how his father had put him in the hospital. One incident doesn't erase 10 years of gentleness, Linda continued, doesn't it? I echoed James's words from last night. How do I trust him again? How does Tyler? I don't know, Linda admitted, but James is trying. He called a family therapist too, someone who specializes in trauma and reconciliation. He wants to fix this. Some things can't be fixed. Maybe not, but don't you think it's worth trying? After she hung up, I sat in James's office chair, surveying the damage. The DNA test stared up at me from the desk. Such a small thing to destroy so much. I thought about James finding it. Had he confronted Tyler immediately, or had he carried the knowledge for days, letting it poison him? I pictured him going through the motions of family life while knowing the truth, and my stomach turned. The doorbell startled me. I found Mason on the porch, shifting nervously. Tyler's sleeping, he said. I needed to get out for a bit, and I wanted to talk to you. I let him in, and we sat at the kitchen table. Mason looked around the empty house like he was seeing it for the first time. It's weird being here without Dad, he said. I know. Is he really at Aunt Linda's? I nodded. He's getting help. Therapy. Mason traced patterns on the table with his finger. I keep thinking about when we were kids. Remember when Tyler fell off his bike and broke his arm? Dad carried him 6 blocks to the hospital because it was faster than waiting for an ambulance. He was so gentle, kept telling Tyler stories to distract him from the pain. I remember. That's the Dad I know, not whatever happened last night. Mason looked up at me, eyes pleading. What changed? What could possibly make him hurt Tyler like that? I wanted to tell him. The words pressed against my teeth, begging to be released, but it wasn't my secret to share. You'll have to ask Tyler, I said finally. Mason's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. It's Dad. He's asking if I've heard from Tyler. What are you going to tell him? I don't know. Mason stared at the phone like it might bite him. Tyler made me promise not to say where he is, but Dad sounds desperate. I read the message over his shoulder. James's texts were short, fragmented. Is Tyler okay? Please tell me he's okay. I'm so sorry. I need to know he's safe. Tell him Tyler's safe and getting medical care, I suggested. That's all he needs to know right now. Mason typed the response. Almost immediately his phone rang. He showed me the caller ID. James. I can't, Mason said, declining the call. I can't talk to him yet. More texts flooded in. James begging for information, for forgiveness, for a chance to explain. Mason turned his phone face down on the table. I should get back, he said. Make sure Tyler takes his meds. After he left, I wandered the house aimlessly. Every room held memories. The living room where we'd hosted Christmas morning for 10 years. The kitchen where James taught the boys to cook. The backyard where they'd practiced football. James patiently demonstrating proper form despite never having played himself. My phone rang. James. I stared at his contact photo. A selfie from our anniversary trip last year. We looked so happy. I let it go to voicemail. He called 3 more times before leaving a message. I listened to it while standing in Tyler's empty room. room. Sarah, please. I know you probably hate me right now. I hate myself, but I need to know Tyler's okay. Linda says he's in the hospital. What if I caused permanent damage? What if his voice broke? I'm going to my therapy appointment now. Individual session today, but the therapist wants to do family sessions eventually. If you'll agree. If Tyler will agree. I know I don't deserve it, but please, just tell me he's alive. Tell me I didn't. Tell me I didn't unalive my son. I texted back, Tyler is alive. 3 broken ribs, concussion, extensive bruising. He'll recover physically. The response was immediate. Physically, but not emotionally. I know. I'm so sorry. Can I see him? No. Can I see you? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to see him, to understand how my gentle giant had become someone capable of such violence, but a larger part was still afraid. Those bruises on my arm throbbed with remembered pain. Not yet, I typed. The afternoon dragged by. I cleaned Tyler's blood from the office carpet, though the stains remained. I straightened James's papers, fixed the overturned chair, trying to restore order to a space where violence had shattered everything. I found more evidence of James's search in Tyler's room. Drawers slightly askew, books moved on the shelf. He'd been thorough but careful, trying not to leave traces. The DNA test had been hidden well, tucked inside a textbook Tyler hadn't opened since high school. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Can you bring my laptop charger? It's on my desk. An excuse to see him. I grabbed the charger and several other things. His favorite hoodie, some snacks, his phone charger too. Mother's instinct to provide comfort through objects when words failed. At Mason's apartment, I found Tyler awake but groggy. The swelling in his face had gone down slightly, but the bruising looked worse. Purple spread across his jaw like spilled ink. How's the pain? I asked, setting the items on the coffee table. Manageable, Tyler said, though his careful movements suggested otherwise. The pills help. Mason was in the kitchen making dinner. The smell of chicken soup filled the small space. Domestic normalcy in the midst of crisis. Dad keeps texting, Tyler said quietly. I haven't responded. You don't have to. Take all the time you need. What if I never want to talk to him again? I sat carefully on the edge of the couch. Then that's your choice. But Tyler, James raised you for 19 years. He loves you. What happened last night doesn't erase that, doesn't it? Tyler's good eye fixed on me. He looked at me like I was a stranger, like I was the enemy, all because of something I had no control over. He was in shock. People do terrible things when their world falls apart. Did your world fall apart? Tyler asked when you found out about the test. I considered the question. No, because you're still my son, no matter whose DNA you carry. But I didn't spend 10 years unknowingly raising the proof of my spouse's affair. Tyler flinched. Is that what I am? Proof of an affair? You're Tyler. You're the kid who insisted on sleeping with a nightlight until you were 12. Who cried when we had to put down the neighbor's dog. Who spent 3 months teaching yourself to juggle because Mason said you couldn't. I touched his hand gently. DNA doesn't change any of that. Tell that to Dad, Tyler said bitterly. Mason called us for dinner. He'd set up TV trays so Tyler wouldn't have to move. The soup was carefully blended, easy for Tyler to manage with his swollen jaw. We ate in relative silence, the elephant in the room growing larger with each passing minute. Finally, Mason set down his spoon. Okay, someone needs to tell me what's going on. This is unaliving me. Tyler and I exchanged glances. He gave a small nod. The DNA test. I began carefully. It showed something unexpected. Mason waited, tension radiating from his body. James isn't Tyler's biological father, I said. Mason's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, understanding. What? But how is that possible? Your uncle, Tyler said quietly. Dad's brother. He's my biological father. The color drained from Mason's face. Uncle Pete? But he died when we were little. Before he died, I clarified. He and your mother. Oh God. Mason stood abruptly, pacing the small living room. Oh my God. Does this mean, am I? You're James's son, I said quickly. The test only showed Tyler. Mason stopped pacing, staring at his brother. You've known for a month? Tyler nodded miserably. Since my birthday. I didn't know how to tell anyone. I kept waiting for the right time, but how do you find the right time for something like that? And Dad found the test results? When he was looking for my car keys, he must have searched my whole room. Mason sank back into his chair. No wonder he lost it. Finding out your brother slept with your wife? That your kid isn't actually yours? He stopped, looking stricken. I don't mean I'd hurt anyone. I just mean I understand why he was upset. Upset is one thing, I said. Violence is another. I know. Mason ran his hands through his hair. God, this is so messed up. Our whole family is built on a lie. Not our family, I corrected. Your parents' marriage was built on a lie. Our family, the one we've made over the last 10 years, that's real. But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. Could we rebuild after this? Or would the shadow of James's violence and the truth about Tyler's parentage poison everything going forward? My phone rang. Linda again. James wants to come home, she said. I've told him it's too soon, but he's insistent. Says he needs to see his office to face what he did. He can't come here, I said, panic rising. Tyler's terrified of him. Tyler's there? I cursed my slip. No, but if he was, he would be scared. James can't come home yet. Sarah, it's his house too. You can't legally keep him out. She was right, of course. James's name was on the deed. He had every right to return, but the thought of him in the house made my skin crawl. Give me a day, I pleaded. Let me figure something out. I'll try to stall him, Linda promised. But Sarah, he's falling apart. He needs his family. His family needs to feel safe, I countered. After I hung up, I looked at the boys. My boys, even if biology said otherwise. Mason was processing, his face a mask of concentration. Tyler had dozed off again, the pain medication pulling him under. I should go, I said. Make sure the house is ready, in case James comes back. Mason walked me to the door. Mom, are you and Dad going to get divorced? The question I'd been avoiding. I don't know, honey. I honestly don't know. He's never hurt you before, has he? Or us? Never. Last night was the first time. Then maybe. Mason trailed off. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to be the end. I hugged him carefully. Maybe not. But right now, we all need space to figure out what comes next. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every red light gave me too much time to think. About James, about Tyler, about the DNA test that had shattered our carefully constructed life, about the violence that had erupted from my gentle husband, about the bruises on my arm and the fear I'd felt when he grabbed me. At home, I went through the house systematically. I packed a bag for myself, clothes, toiletries, important documents, just in case. I didn't know where I'd go if James returned, but I wanted to be ready. I changed the sheets on our bed, unable to bear the thought of sleeping where James had cried all night. I cleaned the bathroom, erasing the evidence of his breakdown, trying to reclaim the space as mine. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Dr. Patricia Reeves, James's therapist. He's given me permission to contact you. I'd like to schedule a family session when you're ready. No pressure, but I think it would be beneficial for everyone involved. I stared at the the message, family therapy, as if we were still a family, as if talking could undo the violence, the lies, the shattered trust. But maybe Mason was right. Maybe it didn't have to be the end. I texted back, I need time. Can we revisit this in a week? Of course. Take all the time you need. In the meantime, I'm working with James on anger management and processing his trauma. He's committed to the work. Committed to the work. Such clinical language for such a messy situation. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. 24 hours ago, I'd been planning dinner, wondering if I should make Tyler's favorite pasta or try something new. Now I sat in an empty house, my family scattered across the city, held apart by violence and secrets and fear. My phone rang one more time. James. This time I answered. Sarah? His voice was rough, like he'd been crying again. Thank you for picking up. What do you want, James? I want to come home. I want to see Tyler. I want to take it all back. He laughed bitterly. But I can't. Can I? I can't undo what I did. No, you can't. Is he okay? Really okay? He has 3 broken ribs and a concussion. He can barely eat because his jaw is so swollen. He's terrified of you. I let the words land like blows. So no, James. He's not okay. Silence stretched between us. I heard him breathing, ragged and painful. I became him, James whispered. I became my father. Everything I swore I'd never be. I became in that moment. Why? The question burst out of me. Why did you hurt him? He's just a kid who found out something terrible about his origins. Why take it out on him? Because when I looked at him, I didn't see Tyler. I saw my brother. I saw every lie, every betrayal, every moment of my marriage that was built on deception. His voice broke, and for just a moment, I wanted to hurt Pete the way he hurt me. But Pete's dead, so I hurt his son instead. Tyler's son, I corrected. Your son in every way that matters. I know. God, I know. The second I started hitting him, I knew, but I couldn't stop. It was like something else was controlling my body. All the rage I'd pushed down for years, it just exploded. That's not an excuse. I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to explain, to understand it myself. He paused. The therapist says it's common. Trauma responses triggered by extreme emotional distress. But knowing that doesn't make it better. Doesn't undo the damage. Tyler thinks it's his fault. He thinks he should have told you about the test results right away. No. The vehemence in James's voice startled me. None of this is his fault. He didn't ask to be born from an affair. He didn't ask for that DNA test. He's innocent in all of this. Then why did you punish him? Because I'm weak. Because I'm broken. Because despite all my efforts, I'm still my father's son. He was crying now. I could hear it. I need help, Sarah. Real help. The therapist, she specializes in breaking cycles of violence. I'm going to do the work, however long it takes. And what about us? What about our family? I don't know. I hope someday Tyler can forgive me, that you can forgive me, but I understand if that's not possible. I understand if I've broken things beyond repair. I thought about Tyler's battered face, about the fear in his eyes, about the bruises on my arm, about 10 years of gentleness shattered in minutes of violence. I need time, I said. We all need time. I understand. I'm going to stay at Linda's for now. Get intensive therapy. Work on myself. He paused. Can you tell Tyler? Tell him I love him, that he'll always be my son, no matter what any test says? I'll tell him when he's ready to hear it. We hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in the gathering darkness, surrounded by the remnants of our life together. Photos on the walls showed happier times, family vacations, graduations, birthday parties, all of it tainted now by the knowledge of what lay beneath. But maybe that was the point. Maybe every family had secrets, had darkness, had the potential for violence lurking beneath the surface. The question was what you did when that darkness emerged. Did you let it consume you, or did you fight to find the light again? I didn't have answers. Not yet. But as I prepared for another night alone in our too-big house, I held on to a small spark of hope. James was getting help. Tyler was safe with Mason. I was finding my own strength in the midst of chaos. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Decisions about the future, about forgiveness, about whether our family could survive this fracture. But tonight, I just had to make it through. 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 breath at a time. The bruises on my arm throbbed, a reminder of how quickly love could turn to violence. But they would heal, eventually. The question was whether the deeper wounds, to trust, to family, to the bonds between father and son, could heal as well. Only time would tell. The next week crawled by in fragments. I stayed at my friend Catherine's place after James showed up at the house unannounced on Tuesday. I'd been in the kitchen when I heard his key in the lock. My whole body went rigid. I grabbed my purse and slipped out the back door before he could see me, my heart hammering against my ribs. Catherine found me sitting in my car in her driveway, shaking. She didn't ask questions, just handed me her spare key and pointed to the guest room. I'd been there ever since. Tyler's bruises had faded to sickly yellows and greens. Mason sent me daily photos of his brother's healing progress. The swelling around his eye had gone down enough that he could see properly again. His ribs still hurt when he breathed deeply, but he'd stopped needing the heavy pain medication. On Thursday, I met with a lawyer. Benjamin McBenjamin had been recommended by Catherine's sister. His office smelled like leather and old coffee. He listened while I explained everything, his fingers steepled under his chin. You have options, he said when I finished. A restraining order would be the immediate step if you feel unsafe. I thought about James crying on the bathroom floor, about 10 years of gentleness before one night of violence. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Then we can start with a legal separation. It gives you both space while you figure out next steps. He slid papers across the desk. Take your time. Think about what you want. What I wanted was my family back, but that family had been built on lies I hadn't even known existed. Friday afternoon, Mason called while I was at work, trying to focus on spreadsheets that seemed meaningless now. Tyler wants to see Dad, he said without preamble. I pushed back from my desk. What? He's been talking to Dr. Reeves. She thinks it might help with his processing, but he wants you there too. Mason, I know it's a lot to ask, but Tyler needs this. He needs to face Dad, to say things, and he needs you there to feel safe. I stared at my computer screen, the numbers blurring. When? Dr. Reeves has an opening tomorrow at 2. Her office, neutral ground. She'll facilitate. I agreed before I could talk myself out of it. Tyler needed me. That was all that mattered. That night, I barely slept. Catherine made me chamomile tea and sat with me on her couch while I cycled through anxiety and dread. You don't have to do this, she said gently. Yes, I do. Tyler needs me there. What about what you need? I didn't have an answer for that. Saturday came too fast. I arrived at Dr. Reeves's office 15 minutes early, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. The building was modern, all glass and clean lines. Nothing like the violence that had brought us here. Tyler and Mason were already in the waiting room. Tyler stood when he saw me, moving carefully. The bruises on his face had faded, but I could still see the ghost of them. He looked smaller somehow, despite his size. Thanks for coming, Mom, he said quietly. I hugged him gently, mindful of of his ribs. Always, baby. Mason squeezed my shoulder. I'll be right here if you need me. Dr. Patricia Reeves was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She shook my hand firmly. Thank you for coming, Sarah. I know this is difficult. She led us to a conference room with comfortable chairs arranged in a circle. No desk between us, no barriers, just open space and afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows. James is already here, she said. He's agreed to let Tyler speak first without interruption. Are you ready? Tyler nodded, his jaw set with determination. I took the chair beside him, close enough to touch if he needed me. James entered, and I had to catch my breath. He looked terrible. He'd lost weight in just a week, his clothes hanging loose on his massive frame. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He sat across from us, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Tyler, he said, voice rough. Thank you for... No, Dr. Reeves interrupted gently. Tyler speaks first. You listen. James nodded, sinking back in his chair. Tyler stared at his hands for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, but quiet. I've been trying to figure out what to say to you. I had this whole speech planned about how you betrayed everything you taught me about being a man, about control and strength and protecting people weaker than you. He looked up, meeting James's eyes. But then I realized something. You're just as scared as I am. James's breath hitched, but he didn't speak. I spent a month terrified of telling you about that test, terrified of losing my dad, because that's what you are, my dad. Biology doesn't change that. Uncle Pete might have contributed DNA, but you're the one who taught me to ride a bike. You're the one who came to every game, every school play, every stupid science fair. Tears rolled down James's face, but Tyler wasn't done. But then you proved my worst fear right. You looked at me and didn't see your son anymore. You saw your brother. You saw betrayal, and you tried to hit it out of me. Tyler, James started. I'm not finished, Tyler said firmly. You broke 3 of my ribs. You gave me a concussion. You made me afraid of the one person who was supposed to protect me no matter what. You became everything you swore you'd never be. The words hung in the air like shattered glass. James looked like each one was a physical blow. But here's the thing, Tyler continued, his voice softer now. I've been talking to Dr. Reeves about cycles, about how pain gets passed down through generations. Your dad hit you, so you spent your whole life fighting not to hit anyone, until the one moment when the pain was too much, and 40 years of control just broke. He shifted in his chair, wincing slightly. I'm not excusing what you did. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I still wake up sometimes thinking you're standing over me, but I'm trying to understand, because if I don't, if I just carry this anger forever, what happens when I have kids? What breaks in me? James was sobbing now, silent tears streaming down his face. His massive frame shook with the effort of staying quiet, of letting Tyler finish. I want my dad back, Tyler said, his own voice breaking. Not the man who hit me. Not the man who saw his brother's betrayal instead of his son's face. I want the dad who rescued spiders and talked to them like they were friends. The one who carried me 6 blocks to the hospital when I broke my arm. The one who loved me even though I wasn't his blood. You are my blood, James whispered, then looked at Dr. Reeves. I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to. It's okay, she said gently. Tyler, do you want to hear what James has to say? Tyler nodded, exhausted from his speech. James leaned forward, his hands still clasped like he was praying. You're my son. You've been my son since the day you were born. Pete's DNA doesn't change that. Nothing changes that. His voice cracked. I failed you in the worst possible way. I let pain and betrayal turn me into a monster. I became my father, the one thing I swore I'd never be. He looked at me then, and I saw fresh pain flash across his face at my instinctive flinch. I've been working with Dr. Reeves every day. Individual sessions, group therapy for anger management. I'm on medication for the first time in my life because apparently I've been dealing with untreated trauma for 40 years. He laughed bitterly. Turns out being struck by your father leaves marks you can't see. That's not an excuse, Tyler said quietly. No, it's not. Nothing excuses what I did to you. Nothing ever will. James met his son's eyes. I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness, even if you never give it. Because you're my son, and I love you, and I destroyed the most important thing in my life in a moment of blind rage. Dr. Reeves let the silence stretch before speaking. This is a good start. Real healing takes time. Tyler, what do you need going forward? Time, Tyler said immediately. I'm not ready to come home. I'm not ready to be alone with you. He looked at James. Maybe I'll never be ready for that. I don't know. I understand, James said. I'm staying at Linda's indefinitely. The house is yours. Both of yours. He looked at me. I won't come by without permission. I need to see you working on yourself, Tyler continued. Not just therapy, but real change. I need to see that you can control yourself even when you're angry or hurt. I'm committed to that. Dr. Reeves has me in 3 different programs. Individual therapy, group anger management, and trauma processing. I'm doing the work. Tyler nodded slowly. Okay, maybe. Maybe we can have coffee sometime with Dr. Reeves. See how it goes. I'd like that, James said softly. Whatever you're comfortable with. Dr. Reeves turned to me. Sarah, is there anything you'd like to say? I'd been silent through their exchange, my throat tight with emotion. Now both Tyler and James looked at me, waiting. I'm proud of you, I told Tyler, for being brave enough to do this, for trying to understand instead of just hating. I turned to James and his face crumpled at whatever he saw in my expression. I'm not there yet. I can't separate the man who saved spiders from the man who left bruises on my arm. Maybe someday, but not yet. I understand, James whispered. I'm filing for legal separation, I continued, the words feeling final as they left my mouth. Not divorce, not yet, but I need space to figure out if I can ever feel safe with you again. James nodded, his shoulders slumping. Whatever you need. We should wrap up for today, Dr. Reeves said gently. This was a big step for everyone. Tyler will continue our individual sessions. James, I'll see you Monday. Sarah, I have referrals for therapists who specialize in domestic violence survivors, if you're interested. Domestic violence survivors. The words made me flinch. Is that what I was now? We filed out separately. James left first, his steps heavy. Tyler hugged me in the parking lot, careful of his ribs. Thank you for coming, he said. I know it was hard. You're my son. I'll always show up for you. Mason was waiting by his car. He'd been there the whole time, just in case. My boys, looking out for each other. How did it go? He asked. It was a start, Tyler said. Just a start. The next few weeks fell into a strange rhythm. I found an apartment, a small 2-bedroom closer to work. Catherine helped me move my things while James was at therapy. Seeing our bedroom, knowing he'd slept there since that night, made my skin crawl. Tyler started physical therapy for his ribs. The doctor said he'd heal completely, might even make it back for the last few games of the season. He threw himself into recovery with the same determination he brought to football. Mason split his time between Tyler's apartment and mine, making sure neither of us was alone too much. He'd taken a leave from flight school despite our protests. Family comes first, he said simply. Everything else can wait. James kept his word. He didn't come by the house, Reeves didn't show up at my work. He communicated through Dr. Reeves when necessary. I heard from Linda that he'd joined a support group for people who'd experienced childhood abuse. He was taking his medication, going to therapy religiously. It wasn't enough to erase what happened, but it was something. 6 weeks after that night, Tyler texted me, "Having coffee with Dad tomorrow. Dr. Reeves's office. Wish me luck." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "You've got this. I'm proud of you." The next evening he called. "It was weird," he said without preamble. He cried the whole time, kept apologizing, but also, it was still Dad, you know? He asked about my classes, about football. He remembered I had a calculus test last week. "How do you feel about it?" "I don't know." Confused, sad, maybe a little hopeful. He paused. "Is that stupid? To hope?" "No, baby. It's not stupid at all." More weeks passed. Tyler and James had coffee every Saturday, always with Dr. Reeves present. Slowly, tentatively, they started rebuilding something. Not what they'd had before, that was gone forever, but maybe something more honest. I wasn't ready for that yet. Maybe I never would be. The bruises on my arm had faded, but the memory of James's hand gripping me, of the violence in his eyes, haunted me. My new therapist said it was normal. That trust once broken was hard to rebuild. 3 months after that night, Tyler made it back to the football field. Just practice, not games yet, but it was progress. He sent me videos of him running drills, his form careful but strong. Mason finally went back to flight school after extracting promises that we'd call him daily. Life found a new rhythm, different but stable. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. James. I stared at it, my heart racing. He hadn't called since that night. Everything had been through Dr. Reeves or lawyers. I answered on the last ring. "Hello? Sarah." His voice was different, calmer maybe. "I'm sorry to call. I know I said I wouldn't, but I wanted you to hear this from me." "Hear what?" "I'm moving. Portland. My cousin offered me a job at his veterinary clinic there. I think distance might be good for everyone." I sank onto my couch. "When?" "2 weeks. I'll keep the house here for you and the boys. I've already talked to the lawyer about transferring the deed to your name only." "James, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. It's the least I can do." He paused. "I wanted to ask, would you be willing to meet just once before I go, somewhere public, with whoever you want there? I need to say some things, to apologize properly. If you can't, I understand." I closed my eyes. 3 months of therapy had helped me process so much. The fear, the anger, the grief for the family we'd lost, but also the understanding that James was more than that one night of violence, even if I could never forget it happened. "Okay," I heard myself say, "but somewhere public. And I'm bringing Catherine." "Of course. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Catherine sat beside me, a silent support. James looked different. Still massive, but somehow smaller. The therapy and medication had changed something in his posture, the way he carried himself. "Thank you for coming," he said, hands wrapped around his coffee cup. "I know I don't deserve this. What did you want to say?" He took a deep breath. "I'm sorry. I know those words aren't enough. They'll never be enough, but I need you to know that I take full responsibility for what I did, for hitting Tyler, for grabbing you, for destroying our family." I waited, Catherine's hand on my arm grounding me. I've learned a lot in therapy, about how trauma lives in the body, about how I spent 40 years pushing down rage and fear and pain, thinking that made me different from my father, but all I did was delay the explosion. He met my eyes. "That's not an excuse. There is no excuse. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what happened, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure it never happens again." By running away to Portland, he flinched. "By removing myself from a situation where I've caused irreparable harm. Tyler's making incredible progress, but he still flinches when I move too fast. You can barely look at me." Mason tries to pretend everything's normal, but I see the way he watches me now, like I'm dangerous. "You are dangerous," I said quietly. "You showed us that." "Yes, I did, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life." He pulled an envelope from his pocket, slid it across the table. "Divorce papers. Already signed. The house is yours. I'll keep paying child support for Tyler until he graduates. It's all in there." I stared at the envelope. "Just like that?" "It's not just like that. It's accepting that some things can't be fixed. Some trust can't be rebuilt. I hurt the people I love most in the world. The consequence is losing them." His voice broke slightly. "I'll always love you, Sarah. All of you. But love isn't enough when it comes with fear." Catherine squeezed my arm as I reached for the envelope. The papers inside were exactly what he'd said. Simple, clean, giving me everything. "Tyler doesn't know yet," James continued. "About Portland. I wanted to tell you first. He's going to be upset. Maybe. Or maybe he'll be relieved. Either way, I'll still do video sessions with Dr. Reeves. Still be available if he wants to talk. But he deserves to heal without having to worry about running into me." We sat in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop buzzed with normal life. People working on laptops, friends chatting, a couple sharing a pastry. Normal things that felt foreign now. "I should go," James said finally. "Thank you for meeting me. Take care of yourself, Sarah. And the boys." He stood, and for just a moment, I saw the man I'd married, the gentle giant who'd made me feel safe for 10 years. Then I blinked, and he was just James, the man who'd shattered that safety in a moment of rage. "James," I called as he reached the door. He turned. "I hope you find peace." "Really?" His face crumpled slightly. "You too, Sarah. You too." 2 weeks later, Tyler and Mason helped him pack. I stayed away, but Tyler texted me updates. It was civilized, careful. James took only his clothes and personal items. Everything else stayed. The night before he left, Tyler had dinner with him. Just the two of them. No Dr. Reeves. Tyler came to my apartment after, his eyes red. "He's really going," he said, collapsing on my couch. "How do you feel about that?" "Relieved, sad, angry that I'm sad." He rubbed his face. "He's my dad. Even after everything, he's my dad. And now he's leaving because of me. Not because of you, because of what he did. I know, but knowing doesn't make it easier." I held my son while he cried, this giant young man who'd been through so much. Eventually, he fell asleep on my couch, exhausted from emotions. I covered him with a blanket and sat in my chair, watching him sleep. The next morning, James left for Portland. Tyler and Mason saw him off. I went to work, tried to focus on normal things. That evening, Tyler texted me a photo. Him and Mason at the house, attempting to cook dinner in the kitchen where James had taught them. "Starting new traditions," the caption read. I smiled through my tears. We were all starting over, in our own ways. James in Portland, seeking redemption. Me in my apartment, learning to feel safe again. The boys, figuring out who they were without the shadow of that night hanging over them. It wasn't the ending any of us had imagined, but it was real, and it was ours. My phone buzzed. Dr. Reeves confirming my appointment for tomorrow. I had my own work to do, my own healing to pursue. The bruises had faded, but the deeper wounds needed tending. Outside my window, life went on. People living their own stories, carrying their own secrets and pain and hope. I thought about James, probably halfway to Portland by now. About Tyler, getting stronger every day. About Mason, the glue holding us together. We weren't the family we'd been. That family had shattered in James's office that night, broken by violence and secrets and generational trauma. But from those pieces, maybe we could build something new, something honest, something ours. I pulled out the divorce papers, set them on my kitchen table. Tomorrow, I'd file them. Tonight, I just sat with the weight of 10 years ending and the possibility of whatever came next. My phone rang. Tyler. Hey, Mom. Mason and I completely destroyed the kitchen trying to make pasta. Can we come to your place for dinner? I laughed, surprising myself. Of course, always. Some things were broken beyond repair, but love, the real kind, the kind that survived truth and pain and starting over, that endured. Different, scarred, but still there. My boys were coming for dinner. I had food to cook, a table to set, a new life to build. It was enough. For now, it was enough.